Good afternoon, welcome. Just give it a couple of minutes before we get started. We're not due to kick off till 3 o'clock, so people just tune in. So we give people a few minutes to get in, and then I'll start our talk today on Eallius, the Irish sweat house, and the sweat lodge, the unique ceremony of the Lakota people in America. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of sage, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of cleansing. My eagle feather that was presented to me up in the northern Yukon, many years ago. All the little things, the flute there was a gift, the feather, the rattles, everything has been gifted to me over the years as my tools just came to me at different times. Even the sage was sent over to me from California from a friend of mine over there. I had the pleasure of going and collecting it on the side of the road when I was in California the last time I was there. Wonderful. I was wild on the sides of the road, out in the fields. It's beautiful. And on a warm, really hot day, you can smell the sage in the air. It's absolutely gorgeous. Send you out a little bit of smoke as well. Don't forget this evening, guys, at 8:30 we've got the Hands Around Mother Earth Water Healing Ceremony for the full moon, as we do every month. That's on. And again at 7 o'clock this evening before that, there's Journey of the Drum. Yeah, we're going to be doing healing with the drum, so shamanic healing journey. And if you're drawn towards playing the drum and you're looking for one, just give me a shout. I've got them available here. Make different sizes from 12-inch right up to 20-inch. So that's a 50, that's an 80 in that one there. Okay, so there's a couple of different sizes. They start at 12, then they go to 15, that's an 18, and the next one up is a 20-inch. Okay, so we're just coming up to 3 o'clock, so we give it another minute or so because people will be just trying to find the link and link in. So yes, just as I was playing the music on the flute there, the winds were howling outside the door. It's still a bit of a wild day out, even though it's nice and bright and fresh. Yeah, I've been in most of the day doing all these presentations, so I haven't had time to go out and do my walk in nature yet, but sure, I'll go out and do some work in the garden, and that'll do the job for me for today, and then into my workshop to continue working on the drums. That's my little cottage industry I started up during lockdown, so it keeps me occupied during the day. Good for the own mental health to work with the hands as well. Keep yourself occupied. Just want to check the messages here. Who have we got in? Hello again from Tina. Hiya Tina, welcome. Good to have you back. Josephine Dowling Piggott is in. Afternoon there. Afternoon to you too, Josephine. And Josie McConnell's in and says, hi, bright moon blessings, Dermot, to all from Tina. Ralph, thanks Tina. Good afternoon, blessings to all this Sunday. Thank you from Josie McConnell. You're very welcome, Josie. Good to have you with us. And who else have we got? That's it. Sheila Karen says good afternoon, everyone. Okay, great stuff. Okay, we'll just give it another minute. The numbers are still building up, so I'll give it another couple of minutes. Thanks, Freddie. Got sorted. Cheers. Okay, so hello to all my friends down in Cork at the Cork Mind Body Experience. Lovely to be able to present to you this way. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person with all these restrictions with this COVID stuff. Hopefully, we'll have it all behind us by the middle of the summer. Yeah, I'm hoping by summer solstice, the light will have lifted all this stuff from our land and from our people, and we'll be in a better position than we are at the moment. So moving forward, yeah, Eallius, Oscuelga means sweat house. And back in hundreds of years ago, there were sweat houses around Ireland in many different places. And what they were was they were built with granite stone, or like a mound, like a beehive. And inside there was flagstones on the floor. And what they would do would be they would burn turf on the stones to heat the stones, to heat the walls. And that would probably go on for a full day. And then they would rake out all of the embers, rake it out. And then they would go in with blankets and they would sit on the hot stones, and they would pour water from the well, which would be nearby. Usually they have them close to a holy well, so the well with healing qualities, they would infuse the water then so through the steam, they would inhale the steam. And very similar to the ancient Inipi Sweat Lodge ceremony that the Lakota people have been practicing for many, many generations in America as a cleansing and a healing process. Today in America, quite a few of the US Navy and the Marines and the Army all go to sweat ceremonies now to recover from PTSD. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, they've been using that as part of the healing process. So it's recognized these days as a very powerful form of bringing you back into balance. So in my work, the lodge to me represents the womb, so it's bringing us back to a point of connection with ourselves, deeply within ourselves, on a soul level, and on a physical and emotional and psychological level. So it brings all three into balance. But of course, when you go to a sweat ceremony, it brings up the imbalances. It's kind of like when you're when you're boiling water that you want to purify. All the impurities rise to the top. It's the same with sweat ceremony. It's like a poultice. It draws out the imbalance from us. And so that's why the lodge can be quite an intense purification ritual. And I was speaking this morning about the British Celtic Grove of Illumination and the rites of passage within that, and the way that the representation of Shield and the gig was a powerful symbol used by the Druids for protection, because it was seen as a symbol of power, because the woman had the power to give life. So the lodge is the same. It's like the womb. The journey through Shield and the gig is the rites of passage. Sometimes for us to move forward, we have to go backwards and let go old stuff to change. So as we change and grow, we move forward. We can't move forward with the stuff that we're holding on to. It prevents us. It prevents us from seeing the direction that we need to go and to bring in the changes that are necessary for us to raise our vibrations and to evolve spiritually here in the human experience. So the experience of the lodge is very much a human, emotional experience, a physical experience. It's a detox, cleansing all the vital organs, and there's you'll sweat quite a lot in it, and you will clean your body. So it's helping the body to regenerate itself as well. And the construction of the lodges back in our ancient times would have been with granite, and with sods over the top of it. So very much an earthy experience. These days, there's still one of these, or actually more than one. There's sites all around the country, and if you go into megalithic sites, Google it and look to the sweat houses, you'll see the photographs from many different places around the country, where sadly they have collapsed and caved in and stuff. And my dream one day is to go to recover one of these and to rebuild it and to hold ceremony there. But in the meantime, what I do is I go for using willow here and creating a upturned basket effect. So you create a willow basket, and what you do is you build it with the willow, and you place blankets over it and a tarpaulin or poly over it to keep it dry and to keep the heat in. And it's basically light deprivation with extreme heat. So when you go in, you sit inside and the door is closed, you won't see your hand in front of you, except for the redness coming from the stones. When they come in, they will heat up the lodge and they will light up the lodge for a while. Quite an amazing experience to have. So when people ask me about the lodge, I just say I would recommend that you do it, because everybody's experience is completely different. And I always tell people when they come to do lodge with me, if somebody asks you about it, just tell them that you would recommend that they do it, because you don't want to kind of, how would I say it, influence people's experience by what you've had. You want people to go in and to deal with the unknown And the less they know about it going in, the more challenging it is for them, and the more beneficial it is also, because people will find even coming within a couple of 100 yards of the lodge, it will have an impact on them. Even the days before they get to the lodge, it impacts on them. It's working on the imbalance, so it brings the imbalance to the surface for healing. And a very powerful ceremony indeed. And the interesting thing is, when the lodge is being built, the lodge, it's not just willow branches and blankets and stuff. The lodge represents a living presence of spirit on this earth. And it's like when we're conceived, we come into the physical body, we come down into the rib cage of mother and down into the belly, into the womb. So it's the same with the lodge. The lodge is, it's got the ribs over it, it's got the covering over it, like the flesh over the body. So we're going into a rebirth process. We're going back in to remember who we are, to reconnect on that deep spiritual level with who we really are, and to heal the disconnect. So to reconnect and to disconnect from, heal the disconnect and to remember. By remembering, we become whole within ourselves. And it's as we call it, the holistic mind, body and soul connection. It's about bringing them into balance. And of course, with light deprivation and extreme heat, this of course takes people into an altered state of consciousness. So there's chanting and there's drumming and there's singing and there's herbs used in the lodge to bring people into an altered state of consciousness, where people get visions, people get insights, people get reflections, people meet people from the spirit world that come in to work with them, spirit guides, ancestors, loved ones who've crossed over, past messages. All of that happens in the lodge. It's a very magical experience. And again, it's about being open to it, because I remember years ago working with a group, and it was part of a mindfulness and well-being and fitness work camp, or boot camp, I should say. And I was providing the lodge for the people as a cleansing. And the facilitators of the boot camp saw it as a detox process. Well, I said, well, there's a spiritual aspect as well, which I will explain to people on the night before we do it. So there was two young lads there, and they asked me a question. They said, well, if you're an atheist and you're not open to any of this, what's the point in doing this? Well, I said, if you're not open to it, just come in and just have a nice hot sauna. They went, okay, we can go with that. So halfway through the ceremony the following evening, I heard this voice from the back of the lodge saying, "This is nothing like a sauna." And one of my assistants overheard the two lads coming out saying, when they came out of the lodge at the end, one said to the other, says, "There was something in there with us." So they felt the shift and the energy and the presence of the lodge supporting. They felt spirit moving through them in the lodge, so they were touched by it. And I'm sure it planted some seeds and had them thinking about their beliefs, and possibly, expanding them just a little bit, to be a little bit more open in this reality, because it's so easy to be closed-minded and to be controlled and to be programmed and to be blinkered. Whereas I like to be open to all experiences. Like many years ago, somebody asked me about past lives, and I says, I don't know, I haven't had that experience yet. And then it came a time in my own life where I needed to do some work in my past lives, and I went and had done a regression. And I went back into a past life, and it was quite an amazing experience. And when I came out afterwards, it did impact on me hugely and moved me forward. So when people ask me today about past life, I say, oh yes, worked very well for me, I recommend you try it. And it's different strokes for different folks. And as medicine woman once said about the sweat ceremony, she says, there are many paths go to same place. Many paths go to same place. They were her words. And it's basically that, many journeys, many paths all end up at the same place at the end of the day. So we've all got different perceptions of reality. But if there are a couple of things that we can agree on as a common denominator, like the light as being a unifying presence in all of our lives, if we can work with that, that's a beginning. That's a common thread, a common, what we call denominator. It brings us all to one page together. And then we can build from that together a sense of inclusiveness, of unity and harmony, because the lodge works as a bridge builder. It's there to bring unity to people. And when I brought the lodge to Ireland 30 years ago or so, it was the purpose of was to unite people, to bring people together, and it still is to this day. So it's about the heart. one heart, holding the space, the intention, okay, and bringing that into a prayerful place and a mindful place whereby respect, harmony, balance all come into play. And it's about it's kind of like putting seeds into, this time of year, into the seed box and putting them in the glass house. So the glass house nurtures the growth. The lodge is the same for us. It's like a glass house for us. It brings us in and it helps us to come out of the darkness. So even though we're in dark space, there's still, people will get visions, they will see light, they will see things during the ceremony, which brings them great support and great healing. So, as I said before, many paths go same place. So that's basically the story of how the lodge works a little bit. I'm not going to give more than that away on it, but my own story of the lodge was an interesting one, whereby I was always, drawn to different things at different stages in my work, and I was drawn to study hypnosis, to understand the workings of the human mind, to help people to overcome conditioning and programming, and also to help myself. And then when the lodge ceremony came along, it was a good, possibly 5-6 years into my practice when I realized that I was getting people so far, but just when we came to the point where they needed to step out into the final steps of changes and to complete their recovery program at that time, they would revert back to the beginning of their old habits and go back to the old behavior and end up back in the old energy and end up disconnected again. And what I found was, first of all, of course, that there was a conditioned program. There was a program in there that they couldn't break. It kept sending them back into it, and it was anchored with fear within them. So then I realized, okay, I have to go into the fear and actually not only work with the subconscious mind, but go into the emotional body and the cellular memory in the body to release the fear. So this is like the guys coming back from the wars at the moment, and duty abroad, and the American soldiers coming back from places like Afghanistan and who have come under fire, and they have to deal with the trauma when they come back. Some of them suffer PTSD, so a lot of them are being brought to the sweat ceremonies in America with the First Nations people, and they're being very successful with them. So this is the work of the lodge, and the lodge is about bringing people back into balance, back into harmony with Mother Earth. And my lodge experience was one which took place up in the northern Yukon in Canada. Completely by coincidence, I ended up there. I went up to do a workshop and I ended up in a sweat ceremony. So it was my time, and to work with First Nations people who had been holding this space for generations was a huge honour to me. And it was, how would I call it, the lineage was there in that lodge of people who had done ceremony for generations. It hadn't been broken or lost. So I was truly blessed to sit with these people in that energy and in that presence. And from that then, I was given the teachings of the lodge, and I brought them back to Ireland with me all of those years ago, and I've been holding ceremony ever since. So that's the story of how I came to be in the lodge very first time, and it was a most transforming experience for me, because when we were coming out of the lodge, we were told at the end by the lodge keeper to remember that we are all connected. And the words that they used were Matakuwe Oyasin, which is Lakota language, which means all my relations. So before I went out, I sat there and I was thinking about my relations. I was thinking about my uncles and aunties and stuff. And I said, no, it's bigger than that. All my relations are the trees, the rivers, the mountains, the birds, the fish, everything. The creepy crawlies, everything. All my relations. This is the harmonizing connection that we receive within the lodge. It's like when you walk into a beautiful, big, old, mature wood, you can feel it wrapping itself around you, this nurture of nature coming in. We needed to have been wrapped up in that by our mothers when we were born. And growing up in Ireland as I did, and seeing women the way that they were repressed and mistreated by the system in this country for many generations, the nurture had been damaged in a lot of the women in this country, and so it was almost impossible for them to channel it and pass it on, because the goddess was ripped away and was repressed within them. So a lot of hurt and a lot of anger in there. So healing with the goddess and healing with the lodge, healing with Mother Lodge is all about bringing in the feminine aspect. You know, there's enough masculine energy running around out there and dominating everything. We need to bring the balance back. We need to bring the goddess up equal to the god. Bring them into balance with each other. So the sacred inner marriage of the god and goddess, bringing in the masculine energy from above, the feminine from below, and uniting them within the heart, creating what we call the sacred inner marriage. And the lodge is about nurturing that balance within all of us. And the lodge itself vibrates out, and as I was explaining this morning in my talk, that when you do this work, it comes a point where it's about holding the space within yourself, and you simply vibrate it out. You don't have to say anything or do anything to anybody, just simply hold the space, and what it does is it just permeates, it goes out around other people, and it helps other people to find their balance. And those who are in extreme imbalance will find it difficult to be in that energy, so that they're the people who need to come to the lodge to cross that bridge of initiation, of overcoming their fear, of connecting again into their own power. The lodge is about empowering people to become unique individuals, to become who they were meant to be. So it's a rebirth process. Okay, and some could say a death rebirth process. So part of the ego has to die in the lodge for you to be reborn. So that part that's controlling you and conditioning you needs to be gently dissolved. And because of this, we do it in layers. So we go around the 4 doors of Bridget's Celtic Wheel of Illumination. So there's a lodge done for every Celtic festival, and have been doing it for the past almost 30 years now as well. Of course, with lockdown at the moment and everything else, that can't be done, but they will be back very soon. And that's why I'm on talking about it, to promote it and to teach people about how powerful and healing and how wonderful the lodge experience can be, and how challenging it can be too, because there's a certain amount of work needs to be done before you even come into the ceremony. And that's where I work with people individually first, and I prep them before I take them into the lodge, because it's not something to be taken willy-nilly. It's very, very powerful, and it needs to be respected for that. And I've had the experience of having people come to me and wanting to do the lodge, and I refused to do it with them unless they came and prepared themselves and done the preparation work with me first. And if they weren't willing to put in the time and the effort and to respect the ceremony, well then I would not allow them in. Simple as that. And I even, it's a case of just maintaining that respect for the space, and for the other people who come to it as well, who equally respect it. So I suppose you could say it's a form of a screening process, that people are ready, they come, they do the work. If they're not, they go away. And so the lodge is there to support everybody once they're willing to be open to respecting it in a heartfelt, mindful way. Let's see how much is going on here. Yeah, okay. I'm just reading some of the comments and questions that are coming in. Oh, lovely. Susan Marie Rowe has posted at irishmegalithics.org. That's the one. Sweat houses. Perfect. Yeah, I have that link on my website for years. I couldn't actually find it. I want to put it back on my Sweat Lodge link. Don't forget, I've got a website, guys, dermotoharaonline.com, and you can find out more and more information about all of my work, including the lodge on it. Just going back here to the start of the comments to read them all out to you. Where are we? Loads of people coming in, wishing you well. Yeah, okay, where are we going? Yeah, got that one. Yeah, Tina was in as well. Freddie came in. Oh yeah, Fiona Newman says, hello and thank you. Hey Fiona, welcome. Josephine Dowling Piggott is on. Summer solstice is my birthday, Dermot. Wow, what a lovely time to do a sweat ceremony, wouldn't it? Yeah, rebirth. Excellent stuff. Eallius Callahan is in, says, hi again, Dermot. Hi, Eallius. Yeah, interesting thing about birth. 85% of babies are traumatized at birth. Yeah, 85%. And of those, 45%, well, 40% is moderate, but 45% of the births are extreme trauma. So there's one for you. So a lot of the time when people come, when you think 45, almost 50% of the population of the world is carrying trauma from their birth. They don't even know about it. So, and that's right at the beginning, before you even open your eyes. So, that's the type of stuff we work with, because what you'll find is that creates fear in people, and it's about healing that afterwards. And it's always important that babies are giving so much close contact and nurture and protection for the first couple of days after birth, so that they can adjust to their surroundings, and people, rather than being handed from Billy to Jack to John, everyone picking them up and disturbing them. Yeah, just wrap them up for a little while, that's all. Fiona Newell says, my mentor facilitates Swits in prison systems in Ontario. Thanks for reminding me, Fiona. Yeah, that's going on at the moment right across Canada and in America. They're doing sweat ceremony, have been doing it for many years in the prisons over in America, because a lot of the First Nations men are ending up in prison, as are the African American men. A lot of them are ending up in prison. No coincidence that these two groups of people, indigenous groups of people, one from Africa and of course the other from America, are ending up in prison, you know. So a lot of the young men are angry. When you look at the way First Nations people were mistreated and treated like, you know, probably fourth or fifth rate citizens within their own land, you can understand their anger. But the young men have been getting themselves into trouble. So the medicine people have been going in there. And there's also the circle of truth in Canada, which they use for crime, where the judge sits in a circle with the victims and the perpetrators, and there's a truth circle. So the accused can have the choice of going to court and facing the jury and going to jail, possibly, or sitting in the circle of truth. And that's been going on for the past 25 years in Canada as well. So it's a way of getting people who, you know, cause harm and hurt to other people to actually witness the damage and hear the victim's statement and the impact that they had on them. It's a very powerful way of healing and stopping people from reoffending, you know. Thanks for reminding me of that, Fiona. Yeah, I mentioned that last weekend on the other talk. I forgot to mention it today, but thank you for reminding me. No such thing as coincidence. Diana Cassie says, could nearly smell the sage here at home. Pity you can't send it over the net. Well, I'll send out a little bit more in a few minutes, and with that intention of sending it right through to you. But as I say, being over in California where it grows wild and the size of the road, on a really warm day, you can smell it going by. It's beautiful. Anyway, yeah. Susan Marie Rose says they were very small there. I'd say wouldn't do to be interesting. You mentioned claustrophobic, Susan Marie. I actually had a man came to me. No, she was a woman. I was a man. I forget now. Actually, was a man, and he was claustrophobic and asthmatic. And he told me before he went in, and I knew this because I'd done a few sessions. And I says, well, look, you know, on the day you sit next to me beside the door. So if you feel distressed and you need to go, I let you out. So what happened was, I was doing the preparations and saging everyone before we went in, and when we were all inside, I went in and sat next to the door. And where was the old fella? He was over on the far side of the lodge, right over the west door, to the side of it. I looked at myself, wow. So I said nothing, and the ceremony went ahead. We'd done the whole ceremony. Came out afterwards. We were standing around the fire when the lad was finished, and he came over to me and he said to me, I always thought I was claustrophobic. I says, yeah, you told me you were. And he says, and my asthma, no problems at all. And I says, yeah, lovely, great. And I checked them a few weeks later, and neither of them returned. So interesting, isn't it? They are very small. Well, you know, it depends. I mean, the one I have would be a pretty big one. It would be, because we would have maybe from 35 to maybe 40 people sit in a circle in it. We'd have maybe an outer and inner circle around the pit. So you could have up to 40 people in it. And the lodge itself would be, you know, you'd be shoulder to shoulder in a lodge that size. And the lodge would be about 3 meters across diameter. Yeah, 3 meters. There you go. Now, as far as being claustrophobic, you know, yeah, it needs healing, doesn't it? So, you know, people come and they confront their fears and they come out afterwards and it's gone. Yeah. Okay, I just need to plug something in here because my charger on my laptop is going down. Just give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Yeah, got the cable here. I forgot to plug myself in on the old laptop because I need to read the messages from here while the camera's way out there. There we go. Yeah, that's in. And we're on again. Great. Just reading the message here. Fiona Hume says, it is incredible. I love sweats. Yeah, they're challenging, aren't they, Fiona? They really move you forward, don't they? Fiona Hume says, I sit in the west door. Yeah, excellent. Well, the west door is the ancestors, the doorway to the ancestors. And it's been known in ceremony that some people, old people, go and they do sweat, and sometimes they would pass during the ceremony in the West Door. They would just leave their body and go into the spirit world with the lodge ceremony. Yeah, so there you go. And of course we have people coming in through the West Door, the spirits from the other side coming in to support us during the ceremony. And yeah, the door of the ancestors. As Fiona Newman says, life-changing, absolutely. The one I had, my very first one in Canada, in the Northern Yukon, was just that. I never was the same after that when I came out of that. It was just, but I'd been preparing for about 10 years for it without knowing it. And when I got there, it was the right time. So it's about the timing as well. You need to be ready to engage in the process, to surrender and to let go, completely surrender in the lodge, to allow the fear or whatever it is to run through you and just release, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to sit with that and to allow it and to just embrace the fear, whatever's moving through you, and to be able to surrender to the light and to transmute it. And that's basically what the lodge does. It supports people to do that. False evidence appearing real. FEAR, and I'll just burn a little bit more sage and share it out with you, seeing as though we were, nice little bit of smoke coming up there. I'll just send it out to you with, this is the, this came to me at the same time after I'd done this ceremony with the lodge. This was gifted to me as well, this special eagle feather from the Northern Yukon came to me. So there we go, just give it a little bit more. Get it going a little bit more. Here we go. Here we are. Let me just let that burn away underneath there. Yeah. So ceremony and mental health and mindfulness are all intricately connected. And as we say, ceremony is about bringing balance to a situation or to a person or to a place or to an energy. And we are all energy, so our energy can be in balance or out of balance. And then we look at the way the workings of the human mind is between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, or some people like to call it the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind is where we store up beliefs, perceptions, and experiences, and we keep them in there. And so what we do is imagery influences the subconscious mind. In other words, what we see imprints onto the subconscious. So it's images. So the picture images of seeing the way other people behave, we take pictures of it and we store it up. And if we experience or witness or are in a difficult or a traumatic event, what happens is that the experience goes in as an image and it sits in the subconscious because we put it in a box then because it's so disturbing. The subconscious mind then stores it to protect us. So sometimes people get triggered in different situations and they get triggered back. I remember one time working up in Belfast with a lovely man from Texas who was a therapist himself, and we were up there doing reconciliation work and we were doing healing through ceremony. And this was actually just after the Good Friday Agreement. It was only a year or two after that. And we were walking down the street one evening after doing some work, and a helicopter went overhead, an army helicopter. And I didn't know that then he was actually in Vietnam. He was a paramedic in Vietnam. And as soon as the chopper went over, he stopped in his tracks and he just froze and his eyes just started to flicker. He was going into REM. He was regressing back into Vietnam. And I just stood beside him and I waited. And I just had my hand ready just to steady him in case he showed signs of going to fall over, but he didn't. And then he came back and I said, "Are you okay?" Yeah, fine. And on we went. The interesting thing was he wasn't aware of what had just happened to him. He checked out for maybe 30 seconds. And I just explained it to him later on because we were working on each other as well at the time. We were doing exchanges. So Ben explained to me the way that he worked as a paramedic in Vietnam, and he says, it was terrible. There was nothing I could do. all I could do was hold them in my arms and watch them pass away. And he had done some work on me over the previous days. He was doing cranial sacral work and manipulation and stuff, and he had such amazing healing in his hands. And I said to him, they were so blessed to have had you to hold them and to cross them over. And that gave him some kind of constellation, you know, because he felt helpless in that moment. I says, no, you've done a great service to all of us. You witnessed their crossing and you helped them to pass over. And so many souls don't get that. They don't get the space held for them in a balanced, connected way. But all of that traumatized him, and, you know, he came and he done sweat ceremony with me, and he continued to do it when he went back to Texas as well. So yeah, little story there of how the subconscious mind can store up a memory and how it can be triggered, and then we can react. He wasn't reacting, he was just freezing with it. But other people can become quite distressed or violent and think they're actually back in that abusive experience all over again. And that can be to do with domestic violence, physical violence from any shape or form, even verbal abuse, you name it, bullying, assault, all that sort of thing. So it's about the way that the subconscious mind stores it up to protect us, but it can still be triggered. So the work of the Lodge helps people to go back and to purge those old memories in a very gentle way, and for the person to heal the wound, because it's an emotional wound of the heart. Some part of the heart and the soul has been damaged, so there's been soul loss. So as the subconscious stores up the memory, part of the soul gets stored up with it. So it's what we call fragmentation of the soul fragmentation. So the part of the soul breaks off and disconnects because the body doesn't feel safe to hold it anymore. So we store up the anxiety in the body. The subconscious mind stores up the memory, the picture memory, the imagery, and the two separate. So within the Lodge, there's imagery, and there's emotion, and there's connection, and the whole thing, the whole ceremony is about being heart-centered, heart-earth grounded, bringing people back into their emotional bodies and healing the pain, healing the fear. And again, as I say, the death rebirth process, the death of some part of the ego that's trying to control and keep us safe, some part of the shadow that's trying to control and keep us safe and control everybody else around us. And we've all met people like that. And it's about helping that person to take a risk, to trust. And not even to trust me, but to trust the Lodge, and to surrender to the light and to the Lodge, to Mother Lodge, and to the light to be rebirthed. So people do end up back in a kind of a fetal position, back in the womb, curled up, crying like babies sometimes, you know, primally purging deep cellular memory from the tissue and the muscles and the joints of the body. So it's quite deep, and as I say, the heat gets in there and it opens up all these different parts of the body to heal the past. Okay. When the body is ready to let go, it will. Yes, the body will let go, but you see, there's the preparation for it. Like I was saying about bringing people to the Lodge, that's what Diana Cassidy was saying. There's the preparation work of going into working, say, for example, with people's dreams and nightmares, their anxiety. It's all of that stuff needs to be prepped first before the body can actually release it. It's kind of like, you know, when you go for a therapy session, you start talking about something and all of a sudden the emotion comes up. So it's about preparing the person to be able to negotiate through the experience of the Lodge ceremony before they go in. So what I do is I do a couple of deep sessions where I bring people in to the core work and I teach them how to process and release. In other words, everyone's process is uniquely different. So it's about getting people ready. It's no point in bringing someone and putting them in the Lodge and just boiling them, and they're sitting there and they're fighting all the way through the Lodge to get out the other side of it. That's no use. It's no benefit to nobody. So the idea is people need to be properly prepped, and there needs to be ceremony work done. There's fasting needs to be done. There's dream work needs to be done. There's all this sacred imagery and sacred work needs to be done in advance of the Lodge itself. The Lodge is almost the final stage of the actual releasing. And when that layer is gone, there's always the next layer. So there's a constant evolving and a journey around the Lodge. I mean, some people come and they've done Lodge with me for 4 or 5 years. That would be the equivalent of maybe, 40 Lodges before they actually got to the end of the process and completely released what they were holding on to at that time. But of course, there's always the next layer. And that's the wonderful thing about life, is that there's always the next journey for us. There's always the next experience. So life is like an adventure. as we grow, we experience new things coming to us, new challenges and new ways of seeing things. So, you don't know what's around the next corner, and it's to look forward to that next experience and to embrace it so that we can grow. Melinda Flynn says, love and light to all. Thanks for that, Melinda. Diana Cash says, I'm smelling the sage now. Love it. Yeah, the interesting is, when the body is ready to let go, it will, says Diana. Yeah, but the problem is that the body always wants to let go. And it's like, if you've ever seen a dog that's sick, for example, and it doesn't feel well, it will go out and chew grass. And what's it? It pukes the sickness out. Humans, unfortunately, don't do that. They suppress it and they lock it away in the subconscious to manage it rather than purging it. So the lodge is a way of helping people to purge. But before people can purge in a lodge and release in ceremony, even in a dance ceremony, they need to be able to understand how it is that their body ejects the sickness, how their body processes. So it's very much about learning body talk. How does my process impact on me when it's going through me? And it's different for everybody. And it's getting people to integrate that awareness into their conscious awareness, so that when they do come to the ceremony and they are doing the dancing and they are doing the lodge in the ceremony, that as the purging begins and the body is releasing, that this doesn't get triggered to overtake and control and shut the process down. Okay? So it's more about the unconscious and conscious awareness of recognizing how to engage with your body's process to let it release, because too many people get stuck up in their heads. And that's why I said earlier, it's very much a heart-centered process, in the heart, in the body. Okay, you've got to engage from the heart space down through the solar plexus, the sacral, down to the root, the buttocks, the bowel, the tummy, right down to the ankles, toes, into the earth. From here, consciously aware that I need to be breathing fully into the body to integrate and ground myself with what's going on around me, so that I can be fully present in the moment. And for different reasons, we all cut off, and that's the stuff that needs to be worked on, the stuff that we cut off from, the stuff that we're afraid to engage in. Yeah. It's like going for a massage, if someone gets in the muscle and you're holding all this fear and tension in there, if you're not ready to let it go, the body won't let it go either. So it's about being consciously aware of what it is emotionally is being held in that point, and feeling safe to release it. That's the most important thing. And the nurture of the lodge brings that safety and that warmth and that support to us to let go. The body will always want to release it. It's the mind that gets in the way. The body's state of balance is optimum health. It's the mind that gets in the way and creates the imbalance. The body's natural state of being is optimum health. The mind gets in the way and blocks it out and creates the imbalances. So it's all about the visualization, getting in there, putting positive visuals in, putting positive affirmation, knowing what your issues are at that time, and supporting yourself on a conscious and an unconscious level. And that's where sometimes working with people who slip in and out of trance, working with them to recognize the imagery that's coming up and to work with. Sometimes people get dreams before a lodge, like nightmares. Yeah, and they need to be processed and interpreted for them to guide them through the ceremony before they even get to the ceremony. So they need to be prepped, to be prepared, and the preparation is so vitally important. Is there a leaflet I can read about the lodge, says Kathy Sweeney? There's information on the actual, on my website. At the moment, I don't have a leaflet. I had one some years ago. I must try and dig it up again and put it up on the actual page as well. But if you go onto the website, there is some information there, dermotoharaonline.com. I'll type it up in a minute here on the stream and you can find the link to it. Thanks. If not in control, is that why we can have panic attacks and blackouts? Yes. Like that chap Ben had the blackout with me in the street, and he won't mind me talking about it. It was many, many years ago, and he got triggered. We all have triggers. Things outside us that trigger us. So what do? We run away from those situations. We never go back there. We never try to confront it, because unknowingly we're avoiding what can. Oh, I don't want to go there. The lodge can trigger people. I've had people triggered at the lodge ceremony even before they get to it. So my job is to make sure that people can handle their triggers. And in other words, it's like teaching somebody to drive a car. So when you sit inside the lodge, you need to be able to work with your body and to drive your body and bring your body through the journey of the lodge, through the 4 rounds. So in other words, what I do is I bring people through a preliminary test, and I bring them through different stages of what the lodge would feel like. Using the drum, I will journey them for a couple of sessions beforehand, and I will know when they're ready. And if they're not ready, we continue working until they're ready, and then they come and do the lodge, and it completes that process at that time. We're like onions, we've got layers and layers of stuff, so hence the lodges continue all through the year, through all the cycles of all the seasons, constantly embracing change and growth and healing the shadow and bringing in the light and bringing in the balance and the nurture that's required. So it's an ongoing process. Someone said to me once, how long does it take? It's not a destination, it's a journey, and we're all on it together. Many paths go to the same place, yeah. That was O'Connell, that was Joanne, yeah. Thanks. If we're not in control, is that why we have panic attacks? Yeah, I suffered with panic attacks and depression up until my mid-20s. I started coming into this work, and and it was pretty difficult. The Good Red Road, says Sally Kachina. Thank you for that, Sally. Absolutely, the good road to walk in beauty always. And then we have, yeah. Let's see what other comments come in there. See if I missed anybody's questions. Can you explain about ceremony? Well, ceremony, yeah, is like, as I said earlier on, the subconscious mind responds to imagery. Okay, so a ceremony is like a post-hypnotic suggestion. We're going to do this ceremony to invoke this, we say, okay, and there's different rounds in the lodge. There's 4 rounds, and in each round we can have, this round is a round of compassion and forgiveness. This next round is one of healing. This one is for the ancestors or wherever it might be. And we set an intention. So once you set an intention, you're creating an image for people to work with. But ritual in itself is a reinforcement of a suggested idea. So we're going to have this ceremony, for example, tonight, to create the energy of the full moon, to bring it down and to place it in the water with our prayers. So the energy of Grandmother Moon is going to reinforce our prayers, which are going to be projected into the bowls of water. We're going to bring the water to our local rivers and streams, and we're going to put those prayers into the water to impact on the seas, the rivers and the lakes, because 2/3 of our earth, Mother Earth, is covered with water, and we're 80% water. So not only does those prayers impact on the environment, but also impacts on us. As a medicine man said to me one time, you spit on Mother Earth, you spit on yourself. You know, that's the relationship. So ceremony is about reinforcing an intention. So if we talk about something, that's one thing. When we go and actually physically do it, that's a reinforcer. In hypnosis, that's called a reinforcer, okay? So the suggestion is first, we're going to do this. So that creates imagery in the mind. Oh, I wonder. So before we go to the ceremony, it's explained. A certain amount of it is explained, but there are certain aspects of the lodge ceremony that are not explained because it's uniquely different to every single person. So you can't really explain. You say, you know, there will be challenges, there will be tests, but when you come out the other side, you'll feel the benefit of it. So the ceremonies, or any ceremony, is about reinforcing something on a physical level that's going to come from a spiritual place, because when the energy comes in from spirit, we can't consciously see it. Most of us can't see it anyway. But when we bring the energy in and we create the ritual, the ceremony, the ritual ceremony is the physical manifestation of anchoring this energy from our thoughts and our intention into something that will physically manifest itself within this reality. So we're bringing the energy in. It's like an invisible energy. The light comes in, and then we're placing it into the ceremony. And there's an intention set. It's like when you do a shamanic journey, like we'll do this evening at 7 o'clock. There's an intention set. And when I'm doing a large group, I always just say, the intention for tonight, to keep it simple, is we're going in asking for balance of mind, body, and soul, to bring us into balance. When you're doing individual journeys, it's more specific because people have specific issues that you can kind of hone it into and say, okay, we're going to journey on this one. And eventually, when you learn how to journey with a drum yourself, you can do it yourself. You can do your own journeys and you can do your own work. And that's part of the craft as well. And I teach that in the 4 Doorways of Bridget's Celtic Wheel of Illumination. So this, I hope that explains ceremony enough for you. Who asked me that question? Yeah. Is it Joan? Is it? Yeah, Joan. I hope that answered the question for you. Thanks. That was a very good question. Okay, just scrolling down through the last of them here. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll put up the, if Kathy was on about the leaflet, I'll put the website link up before I finish and you can check it out. I love and respect how careful you are about this sacred ceremony. Fiona, it's, yeah, it's, you know, for me, it's you know, it's a womb, it's a protected space. And when the lodge comes to me, it comes to me in a dream. I just don't say, I'm going to do one now next week down there. The lodge has to come to me first in a dream. When I see the lodge in the dream, it gives me permission to build it. That's the start of the lodge. And yeah, so it's a very sacred and it's a very privileged position I hold to be given that responsibility, and I take it very seriously. And it's something that I hold a powerful, firm but gentle lodge, and it's about helping people to recover. I've had people come to the lodge and want to leave, and I've embraced them, said, just give it a couple more minutes, please. You know, and they've done that, and they've never looked back. They've often mentioned the time when they wanted to leave, they were running away from something, and they turned back and stayed with me. Other people ran out, wouldn't come back in, and they never come back, and they're still running to this day. I remember saying to one day, you're running out, but there's nowhere to run to because you're running away from yourself. Rebirth, reconnect. Find that part of you that's wounded and frightened like a child, and bring that part back and nurture it within the womb state of Mother Lodge. Okay. Melinda Flynn says, great explanation. Thanks, Dermot. Melinda, thank you so much for spending the time with me this afternoon. Eileen Murphy says, thanks, Dermot. You're very welcome. Diana Cassie says, I have people for shiatsu who in their mind wanted change, but their body didn't. It was only when the body and mind wanted the same thing that change happened. Was that only at the first level? Yeah, well, you see, people say one thing and they do another, and that's to do with the unconscious mind. The subconscious mind can make a liar of you. Oh, I'll never do that again. And what happens? We go and we do it again. We are creatures of habit. So change is very challenging. You know, in here they might say it, and many people come, oh, I want this and I want that. You know, one lady came and says, I want change. I want to lose me weight. I'm getting too fat, and I want to change my job, and my relationship is terrible. So we done the ceremony. She done work with me for a year. Came back at the end of the year, and she said, look at me, I can't stop losing weight, I'm getting too skinny, and they changed me in my job, they moved me to a different position, and they threw my partner out a few weeks ago, and I'm all on my own. And I said, well, we did do ceremony for a full year together, and it was all about welcoming in change and new growth and challenges for you. So now that you have it, it's there, and let's see how we can best work through it for you and support you. But then she said to me, I wanted change, but I didn't want that much. And I says, I'm sorry, but with spirit, you know, it's not about, I'd like this much change, or maybe this much, but I don't want that much. Change is finito. It's everything. Once change is initiated, you transform, you begin to grow. So you take on a new awareness of everything around you. And it's about the rites of passage of bringing that frightened part of that dear woman into her power. And that was the next phase of the work for her. It was about empowering her and encouraging her and supporting her to grow, because I was dealing with a frightened little girl. Yeah. So rites of passage, she was never empowered as a young girl into her womanhood and into her life as an empowered person. She was frightened. So that's part of the lodge work as well. Very powerful work. So possibly the same thing, Diana. Yeah, when people come and they say one thing, and you know, when you give them the change, they usually flip. You know, because change challenges all of us, and within our human condition, we like to find a place where we feel safe and comfortable. You know, people want things to get better, but they find to change very difficult. Very difficult. It challenges them, you know, to look at themselves and to confront their fears of change. Because if they didn't have the fears, they would have already changed before this, and they wouldn't be having the imbalances and the disconnect in their reality and their life that's telling them they need to change. So, you know, it's a difficult one. It's kind of like, you know, that's why I studied hypnosis, to get into the subconscious mind and to work with sacred imagery in there with people, to plant the seeds that would support them. And I was saying that woman who done the year with me, we went further into the subconscious and we put in supportive suggestions that brought her through that difficult transition at that time. Rites of passage, it's not all easy. It is challenging, and you know, it does push us a little bit and can frighten us. But false evidence appearing real, fear. What are your views on cannabis? Don't use it, full stop. O'Connell loves, thank you for explaining. And what I mean by don't use it, there's cannabis oils and stuff that's been produced out there. Yeah, that stuff seems to be pretty good without the THC ingredient, which is the hallucinogenic. I don't use any form of hallucinogenics. And I got this from the teachings in America, from the medicine people there, that many, many years ago, people wanted to bring peyote and ayahuasca, which are hallucinogenics, into the sweat ceremony in America. And the elders refused it. They said, no, ceremony requires prayer and fasting, full stop. That's it. So if people are using hallucinogenics in lodges, in my work, I don't use it and I don't encourage it. So that's it, kind of. Okay. O'Connell John says, thanks for explaining. No problem at all. Yeah, I covered the cannabis. Joan Fitzgerald, don't like being told what to do. If I decide to go to a sweat lodge, which I could like to do, I am making that decision. I don't want to hand that power to anyone else, says Joan Fitzgerald. I'm not quite sure what you mean by giving your power to somebody else, because it's you and the lodge. Don't like being told what to do. Well, when there's a lodge keeper keeping the lodge, somebody has to, as I said before, in the lodge, there's the conductor of the orchestra maintains the harmony. When somebody is struggling and is out of tune, they need to be tuned up a little bit. But you see, I wouldn't have that person in the lodge with me in the first place. They would do their prep work long before they would even come to the ceremony, so that wouldn't happen. And that's why I say, it's about somebody has to conduct, to direct, and to bring the whole thing into one place. So Joan, I don't hand that power to anyone else. Okay, Joan, that's an interesting comment, but I'm not sure why you're making that comment here, because I said everyone's on their own personal journey within the lodge, so you seem to have an issue with the lodge keeper from somewhere. Okay. Susan Marie Ross says, I love it. You would, yeah. It's a beautiful experience, And people, you don't give your power to people. You either trust people or you don't. That's for Jane, And if you've got a trust issue, maybe that's what needs to be healed, So I don't want to presume that, but I don't even know why you put that comment up, to be quite honest, and I'm not going to comment any further. I hope that thing about the cannabis is covered okay. If you have to do with hallucinogenics, I don't use them. Josephine Dowling Pickett says, thank you so much, Dermot. You're very welcome, Josephine. And we're coming close to the end, so I'll pop in the website information here. There it is. That's the website, dermotoharaonline.com. And if you need any further information, just check out the website, and you can email me from there with questions, and I'll be delighted to answer them for you. And thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and listen to me talking about the Sweat Lodge today. As I say, I'm on again at 7 o'clock tonight doing Journey of the Drum. And that's going to be a shamanic journey with a drum. And I'll talk you into, if you haven't done one before, please do check it out. Come in and I'll talk you through the whole process, and we'll go on a little shamanic journey together with the drum. And if you're ever thinking of buying a drum, do give me a shout. They're on my website and I'm making them these days. It's my new cottage industry since lockdown started. So, yeah. What else have we got here? Diana Cassie says, so glad I tuned into your talks yesterday today. Great to hear from you. Diana, it's been a long time, and it's great to hear from you down in Cork too. Hope you're keeping well. Diana does wonderful shiatsu work down in Cork. And yeah, highly recommend her. Next time I went down that way, I will get another neck and shoulders from you. Excellent work. She's great at the work down there. So best of luck to you, Diana. And great to hear you from you tuning in all the way from Cork today. And oh, John Fitzgerald said, you said I would have to go to you. Oh. I'm not quite sure where you're coming from there, John, with that. I'm not even going to comment on it. Pat Mars says, thanks, Dermot. Very informative. You're very welcome, Pat. Oh, Joan says, I am looking. Dana Cassidy, still remember the swap we did all those years ago? Yeah, I remember that in your place, yeah. I will do another one again soon. I have a few new tricks that I've learned I can try out on you. Yeah, we done a swap in the city hall too, didn't we, I think? Yeah. The last Mind Body bridge show I was at, God, that must be about 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Fiona Newman says, I can't wait to get home and meet all you lovely people in person. Fiona, likewise, whenever the travel restrictions are lifted, we'll all be able to connect up again. I've been trying to do a gathering with my own group online for the last year. We had 2 different dates and the lockdown continued. So, hey, we're just going to surrender now. Whenever it happens, it happens. Diana Cassidy would love it. Yeah, it'll be fun, Diana. Thanks so much for tuning in and great to have you here. Don't forget, 7 o'clock tonight, I will be doing the Journey of the Drum. And then again at 8:30, we'll be doing the Hands Around Mother at Full Moon Water Healing Ceremony. So those are 2 things to look forward to tonight. I look forward to being there with me. And don't forget, I just put the link up for the website. If you need any more information, you can send me a message here, or you can just check the information out on the website. You can also download CDs. I've got a Journey of the Drum CD and a Discovering Distillers in Meditation CD there. And I also am available for private consultations. So thanks again for your time. And then, okay, anybody else there? Yes, it's going. Yeah, okay. So there's some confusing messages coming. I'm not even going to engage in them. So guys, take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful Sunday evening, and brightest blessings of Bridget's illuminating flame to you all. And I'll send you a nice little bit of sage before we finish up. And that'll wrap us up for today. Thanks for taking the time to listen in on my talk. And I look forward to meeting up with you all very, very soon. All my friends in Cork, sending you all out blessings there to all at the Cork Mind Body Experience show. Brightest blessings to you all. And I'll see you all later this evening at 7 for a shamanic Journey of the Drum. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.